think you're right, Paul. I agree with your last statement. Oh, hey, everyone. Adam Holtz here, your host of The Plugged In Show and The Plugged In Show Aftercast. We're joining you again on a Wednesday morning, and I don't know about where you are at these days, but it is a nasty morning here in Colorado Springs.
It's not nasty, it's just cloudy. That's actually kind of the best thing about Colorado is when we have cloudy days, rainy days.
Because we only have like 5 of them a year. It's like the anti-Seattle.
No, it really is true.
If you're in Seattle and you think, you know what, I'm just tired of the rain.
Come to Colorado.
Come to sunny Colorado.
We don't get it.
But not today. Anyway, I digress. You are not joining us today to hear about the weather in Colorado Springs, although you just got that update anyway. So each week we try to spend some time looking at comments that have come in from last week's show, as well as talking about what is going to be happening on this week's show. So last week we talked about learning to love reading in a screen-based world and the latest Wings of Fire book, Flames of Hope. And Paul, you were hosting that podcast.
I was.
I think it was a terrific discussion.
I thought it was too, but I'm a little bit biased. You know,
it's true. He is biased.
I'm an English wonk, right? I studied English in college.
You actually know what the
literature.
word wonk means.
I know what the word wonk means. So the opportunity to talk a little bit about books in really a world where we just don't read nearly as much as we where we don't read. It was a lot of fun to just sort of talk a little bit about some of our favorite books, how to get your kids tapped into the joy of reading. Because, you know, when I was growing up, it was a huge thing. I know you don't read any more than, you know, my emails, but
even then I'm sometimes deeply challenged. Because you use words like wonk and I have to stop and look up the meaning.
Exactly. It sort of slows down the whole track. But I know that it was such a huge deal for me growing up reading, and I think that kids are better off when they're good readers, right?
I think so.
Focuses their attention.
I'm less concerned with their calculus skills, but that's another podcast.
That's another podcast.
Time.
What is calculus? I don't even really know.
Exactly.
Shows how much I study.
think that I want the people who build bridges to know how to use it.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
Maybe not so much.
That's a good point.
So what were some of your favorite books to read when you were growing up? Do you remember favorites that you had? And as you are raising kids now, if you're a parent, how are you encouraging your kids to read it? And I'll say I wasn't on the podcast, but we have actually used money as a carrot. And is that bad? Maybe.
Well,
you can weigh in, but we have had reading contests in the summer with cash prizes for my kids, and it's amazing how they suddenly remember that they love to read when there's a $10 bill attached.
Well, that is true. Let me actually point out something that just to give you a little bit of credit. When your kids were younger, you would read to them all the time.
Oh,
you would read you went through the entire Lord of the Rings series with your son.
Yeah,
right?
I think I used to tell my kids stories when they were going to bed at night, and I would make them up. That got to be too difficult. So to take the credit away, the reading thing was, I don't want to make stories up, because I would do it for my daughters and then my son. So I was making up 2 stories every night. And at the end of a long day, I was just tired.
Yeah.
Right? Tired. So Henry and I started reading The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. We moved into Lord of the Rings. We ended up reading 27 novels together.
27. What was the favorite?
Oh, boy. That is a really, really good question. I'll probably just say Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
I know it's a safe answer, but I actually don't know the answer to that question.
So reading with my son, I did the same thing with my kids. Favorite book? Horse and His Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Only because my son loved the way I would say, Bree's name, the horse there, that's the abbreviation for his name. I couldn't actually read it when we were talking about it, so I just went, Bree, why, and my son just loved it. Thought it was hilarious.
I did not know when I got up this morning that Paul was going to be making horse noises on a live video feed. And I think that might be the highlight of my week, Paul. Which probably says something about the quality of my week.
Yep.
So we had a comment from Alex. Alex said, I rarely read nonfiction, which seems to be an anomaly among Christians. Seems like most Christians I know read almost nothing but nonfiction. Fiction and story just draw me in so much more and engage my mind and imagination more strongly. And I think that brings up another question that you can respond to here or in the comments below. And while you're commenting, remember to like, comment, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. What is your favorite genre of literature, and why do you think Christians might be more particularly drawn toward nonfiction, as Alex observed? And I would agree. I think that
I would agree too.
that is a generalization that rings true with me.
I think so too. It is an interesting question, and it's something that I've often wondered about, even in this job. You know, we deal with story all the time. I think that most of the Christians who we associate with, they don't deal a lot with fiction books.
Right.
And I find actually as I get older, I read less fiction, which makes me a little bit sad.
Right.
But
you're reading all those biographies of the presidents, aren't you?
Yes, you're learning a lot about us today. A lot about us.
But I read the Babylon Bee. Paul reads biographies. That's the difference. I think I'm funnier, mind you. But
part of the thing is, though, you know, the fiction books, they keep me up at night. Like if I start a fiction book, I'll read the thing all through the night. And that,
you're kind of a completionist, aren't you?
I'm kind of a completionist.
We are learning a lot about you.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to tell our audience about your personality today?
No,
we're showing a lot, but you could tell too.
No, I think we'll move on to the next question.
Okay. Well, we had a comment from Betty, and she said, "Would you review the Dragon Girl series by Maddie Mara? It might be a good alternative to the Wings of Fire series." Betty, I will pass that along to our book editor, Bob Hoos, and we will see if we can maybe begin to get at least one of the books from that series. Sometimes doing an entire series is difficult, but we'll see if we can get that in the queue.
Well, it brings up a really good point, I think. When we're dealing with as much media as we deal with, we really value, we treasure, we covet your opinions on what we should be doing.
I'm not coveting anything, Paul. Old Testament says we shouldn't covet. But Paul's right. We want to hear from you. We want to hear from you here, on the Plugged In Show Aftercast. We want you to listen to the Plugged In Show each week, which brings me to what we're going to be talking about this week. We have a book. We're going to be talking about a book. Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
We'll be talking about a movie.
And we'll be talking about the movie that is drawn from that book. And Paul, you saw that, and we have already had, I think, a terrific conversation. But again, I think all of our conversations are terrific.
We're biased. Again, we are biased. We like to hear ourselves talk.
And we will also be looking at what we've called When Yesteryear Offends. What do we do with stuff that might have been a classic from years gone by that now all of a sudden it hasn't aged well, and there are a lot of different types of examples. We'll talk about Friends and Seinfeld, but we'll also look back on some of the Disney stuff that hasn't aged well. And does that mean we can't watch it? How do we deal with that with our families?
It's really interesting, and you really can go way, way, way back. We've had this conversation before. You know, old movies, 1930s, 1940s
Gone
movies.
with the Wind.
We think
really problematic.
Goodness, it's really problematic.
So much so that they're doing like a trigger warning on it now.
Well, you know, it's one of those things where as our sensitivities change, I think that we can become less sensitive in certain areas, more sensitive in others. The movies do not necessarily age as well as you would like them to.
Right. Like age in general. I mean, it's not my favorite, honestly. Books, movies, hairlines. I mean, it can all potentially be problematic.
I love getting older. Love it.
If you haven't noticed, Paul likes to disagree with everything I say, even if it's not a comment that is begging for disagreement.
I disagree with that.
Right, exactly. And let me also say, as we wind our conversation up today, we are going to be moving to Monday afternoons at 3 o'clock Mountain Time. Next week, we're also going to be switching platforms from YouTube to Instagram. We will be putting some things in our blog to let you know about that upcoming change and exactly how you can tune in. So not only will we be talking about the Plugged In Show, because we want to let you know what those conversations have been and what you can look forward to, but each week on Plugged In's blog, we publish something called Movie Mondays, where we just go over the box office from the weekend. And we have a lot of fans of that regular feature. So one of the main things we're going to be doing is just saying, hey, what happened at the box office this weekend? and inviting your feedback. We want to engage with you. Did you see the movies? Can you believe that, Super Mario Brothers made $500 million in its fourth weekend, or,
Nuts.
whatever,
Crazy.
and so it's going to be an opportunity for you to engage with the Plugged In team over on Instagram. And we look forward to cultivating conversation and relationship with you there. And you can join in with the general levity and festivities and the conversational extravaganza that is, Paul and I riffing on each other's thoughts. And we'll have some other members of the Plugged In team on from time to
You'll
time
get to
as
meet
well.
all of us.
Right.
All of us.
And frankly, we're all as crazy as Paul and I, but in different ways.
But in different ways, which is probably a good thing.
So I hope that you have enjoyed just getting a little bit of a glimpse into what we're like here at Plugged In. We want to just give you a small, not too big, a taste of our personalities, because I think sometimes when we're doing Plugged In reviews, it might seem like we're pretty serious, and we really try to be serious about the content that we need to be serious about, but we have a lot of fun too, and this is an opportunity for us to get to know you, and
let
you
our
to get
hair hang down.
let our hair hang all the
were.
way down.
Yeah.
Over, once upon a time I had bangs and I could do that, but I think it's safe to say my bangs days have been gone for several decades now.
I need to see a picture of that. I can't picture you with bangs.
I'll find one. It was a beautiful time. It was the 1980s. Anyway, I digress. I hope that you have enjoyed our hopefully witty repartee this morning.
Goodness.
And we really look forward to beginning to join you each Monday afternoon at 3 o'clock over on Instagram to talk about the Plugged In show and movies each week.